Today is Saturday, April 15th. Spring and summer are usually the busiest seasons for real estate. But right now, Redfin's chief economist, Daryl Fairweather, is calling America's housing market a desert. She's here to explain how interest rates have affected home prices and availability, and what all the data really means for both buyers and sellers. She also weighs in on whether so-called starter homes still exist, if there is ever truly a right time to buy, her predictions for the rest of the year, and so much more. Welcome to the Newsworthy Special Edition Saturday, when we sit down with a different expert or celebrity every Saturday to talk about something in the news. Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for our regular episodes, where we provide all the day's news in 10 minutes. I'm Erica Mandy. It's now time for today's Special Edition Saturday. Daryl Fairweather, thank you so much for coming on the Newsworthy.
Thank you for having me.
So first, can you just summarize the state of the housing market in general, and especially in terms of two things: prices of homes right now and the number of homes available?
It's like a desert for the housing market right now. There are just so few transactions happening. There is a steep decline in demand because mortgage rates have made borrowing to buy a home much more expensive. And home sellers have backed off too, because many homeowners were able to lock in 3% mortgage rates just a little over a year ago, and they have very little incentive to sell in this market. So there's just not much to pick from, not a lot of transactions happening. Prices are down a bit, not a whole lot, but it's really the sales that have taken a huge hit.
Yeah, so let's dig into prices a little bit more, because as you mentioned, interest rates have gone up significantly, which obviously affects mortgage rates. And now the average rate for a 30-year fixed loan is, above 6%. So you said it brought prices down a little bit. What historically happens compared to now? And also, why are prices still at historic highs despite the mortgage rates going up?
The reason that prices have stayed so sticky is because there is a lack of supply in the market. Back during the foreclosure crisis, interest rates went up, and then that really impacted homeowners' budgets because they had variable mortgages, meaning that when interest rates went up, their payments went up, and when they couldn't afford those payments anymore, they had no choice but to sell or enter into foreclosure if they couldn't afford the mortgage. We don't have that right now. The people who got mortgages during the pandemic were very well qualified. Back then, credit ratings for homeowners or home borrowers were really high, at historical highs. And they also were able to lock in a fixed rate mortgage at 3%. So homeowners have basically been immune from the rise in interest rates. The only people who have been affected are people who are first-time home buyers, people borrowing to buy a home right now, because they're the ones who are having to shell out 15% more for the exact same home compared to last year. And the reason that this hasn't really, had the effect that I think some people were waiting for the housing market is really that fundamental lack of supply, which goes even deeper than mortgage rates. It goes back to the fact that we aren't building enough homes for all the people who want them in this country. So there's still this well of demand for homes. Anytime mortgage rates even tick down a little bit, there are more buyers out there wanting to borrow to buy that home.
And right now, are there more buyers than there are homes?
So the way that you can tell if a market is a buyer's or seller's market is the months of inventory, which means how many months it would take to sell every home that is on the market. Historically, a buyer's market would be when the amount of inventory goes above 4 months. Right now, we're still closer to 2 months. So if you're looking to buy a home, it's still going to feel like you don't have many options and the deck is still stacked against you. And if you're looking to sell a home, you're not really facing much competition from other sellers because so many homeowners are choosing to stay put rather than sell their home.
It's been interesting because here locally, we've been looking around, and some houses go in that, week or two time period, and then other houses are staying on the market for a really long time. What happens there when you see that?
The biggest difference between now and a year ago is that a year ago, everything was selling. It didn't matter if there were, foundation problems or, it needed a new paint job or whatever little problem there was with the home. People were biting to get that home because of how low interest rates are. Now buyers are pickier. There's still a lot of interest for those move-in ready ideal homes, but homes that are overpriced or have issues with them are just sitting on the market, and they stay sitting on the market. They don't get offers until the seller is willing to really drop the price to meet what buyers are willing to pay for those kinds of homes.
And people are waiting longer than ever to buy their first home, right? So are the days of that so-called starter home over?
It's just harder and harder to find a starter home that's actually affordable. Those are the homes that are still getting bidding wars, that are still getting the most attention. If there's like a small, say, 1,000 square foot single family home with a yard that's priced below the median for an area, those homes are still going to get a lot of attention. It's only really the luxury homes that have fallen off significantly. So there's still a lot of appetite for people to get on that housing ladder, to get their foot in the door, because they know that that's going to be the way that they can build wealth so they can upgrade to their next home 10 years from now.
So overall, what are you predicting for the rest of this spring and into summer?
We're predicting it's going to be, more of the same in terms of not many sales happening for the rest of the year. We do anticipate that mortgage rates will fall as inflation gets under control and the Fed slows down its interest rate hikes, which it already has done. So by the end of the year, we may see a bit of some signs of a bit of a resurgence in the housing market. It kind of depends where interest rates go from now. But as long as interest rates stay high, the housing market is going to stay frigid.
Still ahead, Redfin's chief economist offers advice about finding the right time to buy and how to navigate your local housing market, plus what she has to say about renting right now. But first, a quick break for our sponsor. Have you gotten your Rothy's shoes yet? Spring is such a great time to get comfortable yet chic flats that you can throw on for a walk around the block or a brunch with friends or even a fancy night out. And April is the perfect time to be thinking about how the clothes and shoes and bags that you buy are made, since it's Earth Month. Yes, feel good about upgrading your wardrobe, because Rothy's shoes and bags are made in a sustainable way and are designed to last longer in your closet, since they're both durable and machine washable. Sure, I also think about being sustainable in other ways, like bringing my reusable bag to the grocery store. But I love knowing that my actions can also support a company that has repurposed 158 million single-use plastic bottles and counting, while also getting a new pair of my favorite shoes. Because everything I've bought from Rothy's is high quality, comfortable right out of the box, and super stylish, in addition to being sustainable. So for stylish and sustainable shoes, shop Rothy's. And you can get $20 off your first purchase at rothys.com/newsworthy. That's ROTHYS, rothys.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to our conversation. What's best for buyers and sellers, I know, can often depend on just the local housing market. What are some key things for buyers or sellers to really look at and research to understand their local market better?
Well, we have lots of local data on our Redfin data center. If you just type Redfin data center into Google, it'll take you there and you can pull up housing statistics for any market down to the zip code. But apart from that, I would just go on Redfin if you're not like a data person and see what listings are there, see what homes have sold, what they've sold for, how many days did it take them to sell, how many offers were on the home. We have details like that for listings, and talk to your agent too to get that kind of information. I think what's hard for some buyers to grasp is that there are some homes that are sitting on the market that aren't getting any offers. And for those homes, you can offer significantly less than asking price. You can come in 5, even 10% less than the asking price. But for the kind of home that's new to the market, that is ideal, that is move-in ready, you're going to have to act more aggressively if you want to win that home. So it's a bit of a divergence in the market right now in terms of strategy.
What would you say about timing? I understand that most realtors, and I'm sure even Redfin, like to say that it's always a good time to buy. But realistically, for those who have a choice to either buy or wait, what's your advice for potential buyers? Is it buy now, it's not going to get any better anytime soon, or is it to wait? And if so, how long?
So there may be an advantage to waiting, but it's going to be a very narrow window of when would be the best time to buy. So there's going to be a point where interest rates drop and the market has not yet reacted to that increase in interest rates because, not everyone has rushed out realizing that interest rates have dropped. If you can be one of the first people to buy a home when interest rates drop, you're going to be in a really good place because you're going to get the prices of what the market was like when interest rates were high, but you don't have to pay the high interest rate yourself. But eventually, in a matter of months, the market will react to these lower interest rates and prices will go up. So if you can get in that sweet spot of interest rates have dropped, prices haven't gone up yet, that would be ideal. But it's hard for most people to time it right, especially when there's so few listings to begin with. People looking at homes on the market right now are just waiting for the ideal home to come on the market. So your ideal home may not come on the market at the same time that interest rates drop. So it's a bit of a gamble.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to choose the house that you want over the perfect timing because it's always so hard to predict.
And you're going to be in this home probably for 5, 10, maybe even longer, many, many years. So getting the right home is a lot more important than getting that, exact right price, because over the long term, your home should go up in value. You should be able to refinance to a lower interest rate. So getting that exact timing right doesn't matter 10 years from now.
What positives, if any, are you seeing in the housing market and anything that makes you feel really optimistic?
Well, there is less competition. We are seeing more FHA, VA, low down payment buyers in the market able to get an offer accepted. When last year it was really dominated by cash buyers and investors, that's not true anymore. So I think the market is a bit easier for first-time home buyers now, even though it is more expensive. And then another thing is that I think people are figuring out a way to make homeownership work for them. With remote work, it's easier for people to move to an area where homes are more affordable. People aren't so tied to these coastal, expensive markets anymore. I think people in general have a bit more choice over their affordability, because if you can move to a more affordable place with remote work, then that can really be a good financial decision for a lot of people.
I do want to ask before we go what you're seeing in the rental market right now.
So rents are flat from last year pretty much. I mean, they really haven't increased much at all. So if you want to wait, if you sign a lease right now, you're probably going to get a pretty decent deal. But again, it's really hard to get that timing right, because you sign up for a year-long lease, then you're locking yourself into not buying again until next spring, when next spring could be a harder market than it is now. It's hard to tell. But in general, it's not a bad time to be a renter.
It feels like we're always talking about how stressful the housing market is. Does it ever feel like it lets up? Or is that just in recent years?
I feel like it's been slowly getting worse because the supply problem has been slowly getting worse. I'm optimistic, though, because there does seem to be a movement to get more housing built, especially dense, affordable housing. In California, for example, they passed a lot of legislation that will make it a lot easier to build, and hopefully that improves affordability in California. But this is going to be a slow process, and it always kind of feels like we're behind the curve when it comes to building enough housing in this country.
Anything else you think I missed or that you want to add about the housing market today?
Well, every market is different. Markets like San Francisco and Los Angeles are down more than, affordable inland markets. Florida is still a really hot market. There's still a lot of people wanting to move to Florida. So again, everything is local. So definitely look up what it's like in your local market and talk to an agent.
Well, thank you so much again to Redfin's chief economist, Daryl Fairweather, for today's insights. You can follow her on Twitter, and for more analysis of the housing market, check out redfin.com's blog page. As always, we want to thank you for spending part of your weekend with us, and be sure to join us again for regular episodes every Monday through Friday. Our 10-minute news roundups keep you in the know in very little time. So we'll be back on Monday with the headlines. Until then, have a great weekend.